and welcome to the Satsuma Design Studio. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make quick work of French seams. Typically in a French seam, which is a hidden seam on the wrong side of your garment, you have this nice finished clean edge, and you wouldn't know the difference on the exterior of the garment. But what you will note is, as a wearer, it can be very comfortable. Now, I finished one shoulder of this top I'm doing in this really pretty, fun orange linen, and I'm going to show you how to do it on the other shoulder seam. I'll tell you what I'm doing and then I'll do it. First, when we're sewing French seams, atypically, we will put wrong sides together. So both the face of the top and the bottom, front and back bodice are facing out. So we have wrong sides together. Now, of course, in this linen, it's a bit difficult to tell, but you know your fabric. So remember, wrong sides together. Then the next step is to sew a 1/8 seam, basically an edge stitch, all the way along this shoulder seam. We're going to fold the garment wrong side out, then hand press that seam, and then sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance seam. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna show you how we'll do it. So align your fabric. I'm here on my Juki single needle lock stitch machine. My machine is on, my sewing foot is up, and I'm just going to very carefully sew that 1/8 inch seam. Remember, when I'm stitching, I'm following my sewing foot as opposed to the needle. I'm aligning my fabric, my raw edges as I go. And if needed, I could certainly pin these. But on an industrial machine, the feed dogs are so strong, they just nicely pull that fabric together. So you can see, I hope you can see, I'm aligning the inside of the right toe of my sewing foot to the edge of the fabric, and that's how I'm getting my 1/8 inch seam allowance. And let's see how I did cutting. Not bad, not great. And we'll go ahead and just finish that up. Back tack and finish that seam. So there you have it. We've got a 1/8 inch seam allowance. I'll double check with my gauge. I'm gonna come back here and do it. Yep, great. So now I'm turning my garment wrong side out. And I could press this for purposes of the video. I'm just going to finger press this, but really get my seam nice and flat, straight out. And the linen's great for this. You know, one thing I'm gonna do is push my finger in this way. Get that nice and flat. Now, the benefit of this method that I'm showing you here today is typically we would give ourselves a little more seam allowance when we sewed that first seam. But here, we don't have to risk cutting any of our threads. I don't know about you, but I have definitely done that on projects where I've accidentally, cut the seam, cut the thread, and then I'm back to where I started. So I thought it would be neat to try this, and sure enough, it's working pretty well. Okay, so now we have our next seam is going to be 1/4 inch, and as you know, we'll use the sewing foot as our guide. So that's lined up against the edge. I'm just gonna drop my needle, forward stitch, and back tack. And again, I'm using this edge here, this nice edge, as my guide. Now you'll see when I turn it right side out next, that we have enclosed that 1/8 inch seam allowance with that raw edge. So we'll be good to go. And I'm really excited for this new little top for spring in my favorite bright orange. And there you have it. This is our 1/4 inch seam allowance. I use my gauge. Yeah, great. Now let's turn the garment right side out. And there you have it. If you have any of these little threads, you can just trim them, but this method seems to work quite nicely, and it worked very nicely on this side as well. All right, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in another video. Bye-bye.